Welcome to Who Invited Marketing, the podcast that gives marketers the inside scoop on how to level up and stand out. And today's guest, Tas Bober, aka the Purple Landing Page Lady on LinkedIn. Tas is the mastermind behind the Scroll Lab, a B2B marketing consultancy that helps brands turn clicks into conversions with killer landing pages. We are diving deep into what makes a landing page actually work, the biggest mistakes most companies make, and pro tips to boost your conversion rates. But before we get into the good stuff, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on Spotify, please drop a rating, grab your digital notepads, and get ready to take notes. Here's Tas Bober, the Purple Landing Page Lady. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, I'm happy to be here and support this new show.
Thank you so much. So I'll won't take so much of your time. I'll just directly start with the question. The very first question that comes to my mind when I see your profile and when I see your LinkedIn posts is that what inspired you to specialize in landing pages?
Well, I worked in-house at companies for most of my career. I've only been doing this for the last year and a half on my own. But when I first came out on my own, I decided to be like a fractional head of digital and website. And I thought people would be beating down the door to work with me because I thought that was already narrow enough because everyone wants to be like fractional head of marketing or fractional CMO. And there were a few companies who wanted that, but then I found that sitting on calls with them, I was trying to figure out what the problem was that I could solve for them. And they were trying to figure it out. And so they weren't productive conversations. They liked me and they bought from me, but they just I'd just be sitting there going, "Oh, I don't know if I'm providing them with enough value," and things of that nature. But landing pages didn't just come to me. I talked to a friend who is very specialized in what he does. Anthony Pieri does homepage messaging
Oh,
and
yeah.
positioning. Yes. And I talked to him and he said, look, you need to really just niche down. You need to pick one problem, solve it for them. And I was like, well, but I can do so many things. Why would I just try to do one small thing? And he's like, no one's going to think that that's the only thing you can do. Um, so that evening, I changed everything on my site. He's the one that told me, with your background, with the 400 websites you've worked on, you have this background in website and digital. Combine those. We get a lot of people asking us about campaign landing pages. Maybe you should try that. And sometimes it does take someone else seeing it for you because you're too close. You just don't realize what you can and can't do. And my specialty is on the website end, but I didn't want to do all the redesign and all the headaches that
Mhm.
come with those large scale projects. I just kind of gave this a shot. I thought, you know what? If it doesn't work out, that's fine. I can just switch to something else and no one will remember. And it's worked out great for me. Now I've become the purple landing page lady. So, yeah.
Definitely, you have. So now that you have worked on this for like a year and a half, how do you convince your clients that landing pages are really very important in marketing? Because there's so many moving parts.
I think I'm shocked that they don't already know it. And then I saw the statistic that said 44% of ad clicks just go to a homepage and of B2B ad clicks go to a homepage. And I know just from Anthony and Rob posting a ton about how homepages are so vague in B2B and they don't say a lot. And I'm thinking, what if you have an ad that's really specific and then you're taking them to the homepage and I compare it to something like, you know, this clothing shop that I really love, which is Old Navy. And I'm thinking if Old Navy showed me an ad for pants and they were like, check out these pants. They're awesome. And I'm like, yes, that looks amazing. And I clicked on the ad and it just dumped me on the homepage. And now I have to go through their products, go through all their filters to find those pants again. I would be extremely pissed off. So that's the same thing for B2B, right? If you talk about a
Yeah.
specific case, you're talking about a specific testimonial, you're talking about a specific problem, and then they just dump you on the homepage where they just say a bunch of nothing. I shared an example, a couple examples in my post today. even about what they say on the site and what it actually is. And so I think that's the problem is it becomes this thing where there's such a disconnect between an ad and the landing page or where we're sending users. And then we are like, oh, we're not converting. I don't know what's happening. Oh, we're going to cancel Google ads because it's not working for us. Sometimes the diagnosis is internal. We have to figure out what are we doing wrong? What can we do better? And the biggest thing is putting the buyer first and saying, I am going to deliver on the promise of my ad and
Mm.
take them where I'm promising them in the ad that I'm going to take them, right? What if you got in an Uber and he started driving in the opposite direction? You'd be scared out of your mind, right? Obviously, it's not that dramatic, but you would be like, WTF? And that's exactly what your buyers are going to think. WTF? I've gotten in your
Mhm.
car, taking me for this wild ride, and I don't know what to expect. And now I'm distracted by that rather than having a good experience.
Yeah, it's exactly like. So, what do you think are the elements of a high converting landing page?
People always ask me this question. It's funny because I actually don't even focus as much on conversions on landing pages, which is so weird because I'm the landing page person. I should be like, oh, here's how to increase your conversions by 300% or whatever. But I just don't think that's how B2B buyers buy. They are very research heavy. And I know this because I was a B2B buyer. When I was in-house, I had budgets of my own, and 30% of those budgets would go towards vendor partnerships, tools to keep the digital and website side afloat, right? And when I had to purchase a tool, I had to go get all of the information about that tool, put it into a slide deck about why I need it, and then go and parade this slide deck around internally to my VP, my CMO, my InfoSec team, and get all of their buy-in, uh, financial team, right, to figure out and get the approval to actually go purchase the tool. So the companies that give me the information the fastest are the ones that are going to end up on the short list. So as B2B marketers, I don't think that we should be trying to get as many conversions as we want to or we can, because if that's all you want is some names and conversions, like you can buy them for 17 cents tomorrow, on these lead lists and content syndication, everything else. But if you want people who are genuinely interested, um, what you need to do is just be extremely clear about what you do, who you do it for, what their problems are. So empathize with them. Tell them how you solve that problem, give them credible proof, be transparent with pricing, and tell them what they can expect in the sales process. So they're going to collect all this information, right? And maybe a post I'm going to do in the future is one of those business case decks that I had to do. I'll just put that in a carousel or something and show people what I had to put together internally as a buyer and how I needed to fish for all of that information that the company already
Mm.
has. But I had to go to Reddit. I had to go to freaking G2. I had to go ask my friend. It's like the how to make a whatever, like how to become a millionaire or whatever. Like phone a friend, ask my aunt, ask my mom. Like, why are we sending them on a fishing expedition? We should give them all the information they need to make that business case, and the conversions will come. And they may not come on that landing page. They may come direct to your website because they can't find the landing page again. So we need to look at two things. One, are they consuming the information on the page? And two, are the hand raisers or meetings or whatever going up from the time you launch the campaign, no matter where they came in from, right? And so when I'm talking about the elements of a landing page, I'm going to say give them the information they need to build that business case internally and sell you to all of their internal stakeholders. So everything in the business case you're going to put in there, which I had mentioned, right? Show them the product, tell them the problem, you understand it, give them the proof there are others like me, tell them what to expect in the sales process, how long will it take to deploy for my team to adopt it, will I get customer support, answer their questions, do all of that upfront.
So, inform them as best as you can.
Called treating them like adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't buy something that's $30 or whatever on Amazon if you didn't know the price. Imagine someone not knowing the price for a $100,000 product.
Yeah. And in B2B, it's like a big decision. Everyone has to be included. So it takes time. It doesn't happen right away. So
Yeah.
yeah, marketing, yeah, it takes time. You obviously do a lot of A/B testing. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So most times or traditionally, A/B testing is very much around, let's try this button color versus that. Let's try this CTA name instead of that CTA name. And I think those things have their place, but we're always thinking about conversion rate optimization. And for me, I'm more concerned about them consuming and collecting the information that we give them. And so when I'm looking at making optimizations, it's always based on how they're consuming information. For one of my clients, which was a screenshotting tool, we had all of that information laid out on the page. After a few weeks, we noticed, based on heat map data, that 15% of 2,000 clicks, right? 15%, huge amount of clicks, was on the fourth FAQ on that page, which is all the way in the bottom, fourth question. And we're like, this is obviously something that they're very concerned about. And the question was something around, hey, because it's not a cloud-based application, it's something you download on your computer. And they said, okay, if I buy this license and I download this tool on my computer, um, but if I get a new computer, can I transfer my license? That was the question that they had. And the answer was like, yeah, you just have the same license, you just get a new whatever device. So we saw that, we moved it up higher on the page. Into its own thing, and like people were buying the product, not even doing the free trial. They were just buying it because they had their question answered. They're like, oh, it's a lifetime license, I'll just buy it, I can move it across devices, cool, I'm good. So that was something we would never get
Mm.
just from looking at conversion data or just from looking at visitors, add to visitors, to clicks, to conversions. We're like, okay, great. No, heat map data is going to tell you how people are consuming information, what information is important to them, and you may need to make optimizations based on the information that's important to them. So whenever I tell people I'm going to do a landing page for you, I always say, I'm not giving you this magical landing page that's going to like convert immediately within the first day. What I'm giving you is the best first hypothesis, right? And from there, we're going to see what they respond to and then keep optimizing and giving them the right information based on their feedback, constant feedback over time.
That's a great way. I mean, instead of just saying that, hey, I got all the answers, you're working with them and acting on the feedback and then giving the results.
Yeah, that's marketing. You have to fail 9 times to win the 10th time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned, when you started, you just mentioned about design and colors. So in your experience, what matters more, design or copywriting?
I always say content is king. So you could have the most ratchet landing page in the world. You could have a Google document, right? Or even just a slide deck. You don't even have a website. I mean, when I started, I'm the website person. I didn't even have a website for the first 6 months of my journey because I didn't need it. I just needed to have conversations. I have a partner too who has sold big clients just by doing all his audits in a Google Doc. So the content and what you're giving them information wise matters way more. But with that said, I will say if content is king, then design is queen. So you could have too the best content in the world, but say your site doesn't load, no one's going to see that content. Secondarily, if you come to a website that looks like it was built in 1995 and you have a lot of like spammy, like here's a starburst and act now, and you have pop-ups and distractions and the colors are like, neon, and then you have like Comic Sans font and it just looks like uh one of those like direct mail pieces you get that's just like, spammy, people are going to be immediately turned off and not going to want to engage. So I always describe it like you walk into a shoe store and it's an absolute mess. The shoes are there. You like the shoes. but the rest of the store looks like a mess. They haven't kept up with it. It doesn't look clean. Someone spilled a soda on the corner. You have pushy salespeople who come to the door and they're like, "What do you want? Let me show you." And they're not letting you just consume and just see what you even want to look at, right? It's that kind of experience. You would just be like, ugh. How many times have you gone to a restaurant? It's like, the food's really good, but it's kind of dirty, right? You wouldn't go back because that's a reflection on the food. If the restaurant's dirty, I can't imagine the product is that great. The product's probably dirty too. So they come to your website and you're promising them cutting edge technology. And then they're like, if your cutting edge technology can't even look good on a website, how good is the actual product? Right? So, same thing.
This word cutting edge technology, I feel that everyone uses so much.
Yes. Yes. Um, I'm also writing this down because I think these are good posts to make.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question is, how do landing pages differ for platforms like Google Ads, Facebook, and LinkedIn?
Mm, That's a good question. No one actually has ever asked me that question, so it's interesting. Okay. So the primary difference between running it through Google Ads, and we're talking about Google Ads in terms of paid search, because I know Google Ads has display and other stuff too, but we're just going to talk about it in terms of search versus social or some other platform, right? Um, from search, we are starting with the buyer's query. What are buyers actually looking for, right? And I'll give you an example. One of my clients, uh, past clients, they are security questionnaire automation software. That's what they call themselves. Okay.
Okay.
So they automate security questionnaires that you have to fill out for companies. Makes sense. Seems pretty obvious. What their buyers are actually searching for is vendor risk assessment software. Even Google's natural language algorithm is not going to put those two and two together. So what we ended up doing was testing vendor risk assessment software on the paid search landing pages. And we saw higher density of the ICP coming to those pages because we're calling it what the ICP is calling it, which is vendor risk assessment software. So when it comes to paid search, we are starting with the buyer and the buyer's query and saying, okay, this is what they're searching for. So the ad should reflect that and the landing page should reflect that, right? Now flip it to paid social and LinkedIn, or if you're doing Meta or whatever. You're doing more of a proactive approach, right? So these are buyers who may not be in market. You're starting to create some awareness around your company, awareness around the problem that you solve. They may not even be problem aware. At this stage, you are starting with this information about the buyer, which is, who is my ideal customer? And can I reach them on this platform? And so the ads there are a little more like, here's a primary capability or use case, or here's a problem that we commonly solve. And then they go to this landing page that has that highlighted. So the vernacular matters less. You're kind of teaching them. So in this stage, you would say, maybe your ad is saying something like, having trouble doing, vendor risk assessments, something like that. And then you go to the landing page and it's like vendor risk assessment software. So, but you could also do it like, oh, having issues during security questionnaires. So you can almost educate them on the product category versus the other way around, where we're looking at what they're actually typing for with in-market buyers, right? So we have to think about what stage they're in, what their intent level is. But you should always start with the buyer and their problems, and not just, how many LinkedIn ads do you see where it's like the AI-powered solution to your work and goals? And you're like, are you a project management tool? Are you an HR software? Like, that could be so many different things. So either way, start with the buyer and be specific and be clear about what you do. But that's kind of what it is. So you'd be optimizing based on queries here and making sure that you are matching the intent of the buyer. And then on this side, you're proactively educating them about the problem. And hopefully that will influence them to then make the right searches and then come to your page, right? And so both those platforms can also talk to each other. So that they're calling it vendor risk assessment software here, but you're calling yourself security questionnaire. You could then maybe push them to say, vendor risk assessment software, because that clicks in their mind from the in-market buyers. And so you can start to push that vernacular too, and then help them do the closed loop of like, okay, I got to find vendor risk assessment solutions.
I love that you are making everything work together and then it's a loop.
Hopefully,
And
yeah. Yeah. Buyer's a little more complicated than that, but at least we're trying to simplify, using the information that we have, but at the end of the day, putting the buyer first.
so when it comes to performance, what are the metrics that you usually track?
Yeah. So I look at metrics in two buckets. One is the traditional conversion metrics, right? So are they scheduling demos or are they signing up for free trials or whatever, the standard stuff that everybody measures? That's great. I would love for them to sign up on the landing page and, or like sign up for a demo or sign up for a free trial. I would love that. Everybody wants that. Um, but the statistic by hockey stack is that for low ACV product, $5,000, right, $5,000 product, it takes an average of 31 website touch points. For $5,000. Most companies are in the 20, 30, 40, sometimes 100 plus. That means it's exponentially going to increase because they need a lot more information before they're making investments like that. Then also on top of that, you might have a cheaper product, but it requires a lot of behavioral change. So you might have a CRM that's way cheaper than Salesforce, but people aren't going to act just on price. They're going to be like, okay, yeah, but Salesforce has been in the market for a really long time. I know I'm going to get the support. This is a rinky dink newcomer. It says it's easy, but now I have to migrate all my data, right? So the more friction and adoption you need, like those are all factors that are going to impact how much time they take to consider you. So that's why I say direct conversions on a landing page are not a good indicator of success for that campaign. It's how they're consuming information on that page and if they keep coming back. So yes, we'll look at conversion metrics and are they having, am I securing more meetings or am I getting more product sign up? Sure, we'd love that. But the other way to measure it is consumption metrics, which I mentioned a little bit with the example I told you before, but using heat map data and general website analytics to see, are they coming to the landing page? Yes. Has someone who visited the landing page also visited the main site after that? How many times have they visited after that? Overall, if my returning visitors are like, I get 2.5 returning visitors over time, is it now 3 returning visits over time? 4? So we're looking at those incremental movements and change. And then you're also going to look, so that's like on the top level, the vanity level of are they consuming the information? So another statistic I'll give you is only 30% of people get to the bottom of a landing page. So if your average is 30%, over time, has that gone to 40%? So they're consuming more information on the page? Is there some particular part of the information we need to move up higher because we want them to see it? Those are the things we need to look at, those patterns and recognition. Are they coming back to the main website over time? How many times are they coming back? Right? How many, if we can calculate, how many touch points we think on average before they're coming in and actually engaging with us? And then once they're in the system, if your deal velocity before was it takes us on average 90 days to close a deal, is it now 75 because we've given them a lot of information? Are we getting the density of ICP? So before we were getting 1,000 leads, but only 25% of them were actually qualified. Now is it 35%? 45%? So there are a lot of little metrics to show that we are reaching the right people. It's incremental over time. We're having an impact and influence over time. It is not going to happen in 1 month. And that's the problem with marketers is the average buying cycle for B2B is 3 months, average. But marketers are measured on performance monthly, if not weekly, if not 2 days after a campaign is launched. It's ridiculous. So that's why I'm like, I could have worked for a company and done so much of this. And then 2 years have passed and I've moved on. And we're seeing deals come in probably now from the efforts that I did 2 years ago when I worked there. That's the reality. But, either companies get rid of marketers or marketers move on before that ever happens or comes to fruition. So making
Yeah.
sure we time and look at all of these signals, that's what we're looking for, are signals that we're moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, that's a problem, really a problem in marketing that we expect results very soon.
Yeah, I don't even buy pants in the first visit, let alone $100,000 ACV
Same
product.
here. Say I've worked with so many clients till now. What are the like common mistakes that you see them making with their landing pages, and like what are the mistakes that you go on to correct right away?
Yesterday I shared a post on a standard landing page that everyone thinks is like, this is pretty much the standard. And so common mistakes I find outside of half of them not even having landing pages and just sending everybody to the homepage. But other ones are making the ask too soon. So they're putting the form up top right. Maybe this is the first interaction with your company and product, and you're already saying, hey, can you give me your information? What if you just met someone and they're like, hey, can you give me your name, address, social security number? What's your mom's name, your dog's name? You'd be like, you would be freaked out, right? Because essentially what they're doing is asking for access to you, your consent to access, and you're not even ready. You're like, I don't even know who you are, what you can do for me. Like, it's not a mutually exclusive relationship. We are making it transactional and we're asking way too soon. So some of the landing pages, I mean, most of my clients don't show me their current landing pages. They're like, listen, we have landing pages, they're not working. I'm too embarrassed to show you. And I don't even need to see them because I don't do audits of landing pages anymore. Because I always find myself rewriting them start to finish anyway. So I'm like, let's just forget it, wipe the slate clean. We're just gonna do a new one altogether. Um, so it's always that they make the ask larger than the value that they give. Some little like whatever. Always the buzzwords. There's no clarity in the messaging. We don't understand what the product does. Um, they I think they showcase credibility wrong. So sometimes companies will only do logos or they'll only do video testimonials because they saw somewhere that people love video testimonials. I actually find that buyers today are pretty impatient and they're not going to sit through a 7-minute video of another customer talking about you. They also don't believe that it's genuine. So there's different layers and varying types of proof that they would look at, both from you and agnostically. The other big thing is they say, hey, give me your information. And then they give them no expectation of what happens with that information after. And we are starting to live in more of a privacy centric world. People need to understand how you are going to use their information and whether you are going to respect their time. So just even telling them, hey, fill out this form with only the bare information you need. Don't be asking them for everything in their, anything that you can get from other sources, don't ask them. Take the bare minimum of what you need to qualify them or set up the meeting and say, hey, we're going to have a 30-minute discussion about what your specific problems and use cases are, why you're looking for this. Then we're going to have another 30-minute follow-up call where a solutions engineer is going to walk you through a very specific custom demo based on your use cases. After that, you can decide if we're right or wrong for you. We'll help you build a business case to sell us internally if you are happy and want to pursue it. Just telling them that disarms them because they are just, now they're like, okay, I feel like I know exactly what the next steps are. I know what to expect. Someone's going to reach out to me in 24 hours, right? Um, So those are types of things that will help reduce some of the friction. And it's so commonplace, right? How many times you get text messages from companies that are like, hey, do you want to opt in just for like updates on your package tracking? Yeah, I'm happy to give you that information because you've told me what you're using it for. It's really just as simple as that. Respect their time, respect their information, and then do right by them. Make sure that you are as responsive and you're keeping up to those promises because that goes a long way.
Those are some excellent tips, and I think I'll also write this down somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh, so my next question is, how do you tailor landing pages for different stages of the product life cycle, like launch, growth, retention?
Interesting. So, for those who are unfamiliar, Chipotle big fast food chain in the US. I think they do have some places in other countries, but Chipotle has a brilliant business model. And I think that we can approach landing pages the same way. Okay. So Chipotle has a set amount of ingredients that they offer: rice, meats, tortillas, you know, um, and vegetables, condiments, salsa, all of these things. And you, Priyanka, could walk in there and you want a taco. I walk in there and I want a burrito. Chipotle is not standing there in the back room going like custom order, making a taco and burrito just because you and I asked. They have all the ingredients set out already. They just package it differently so that they meet your needs and they meet my needs and what I want in order to make me happy. So when we're talking about life cycle, there's a couple of touch points that happen, right? Person who's not familiar with my company, what I would be able to show them. So similarly with Chipotle, we're going to say, okay, you want information about the product, what we are, who we are, high level, here are all the things that we have. We will actually, that's the rice, that's the meat in terms of here's the standard information that we're going to have across all these different landing pages. Okay. You don't have to write a landing page from scratch every time. You just need to collect all of those ingredients that we talked about. So, first thing is like, what are the problems that we solve? That could be your tortilla shells, your wraps, your rice, whatever, right? Then, how do we solve it? That's your meats. You have all these different types of meats of how you solve it for all of these different types of segments. Then you have your vegetables. What is the proof, right? All the different types of proof from agnostic sources and the ones you got directly from your own customers. What's the sales process? What are the common questions that we get during the sales process when we're actually talking to clients? You're going to collect all that information because that's all the information they need from a buyer's business case standpoint. And then you're going to use all of that information to create specific blocks for each landing page. And you can reuse a lot of those blocks across different types. So for example, we'll walk through like a paid search kind of journey. So in paid search, if someone is looking for vendor risk assessment software, they just want to understand, is there such a thing? Can something help me automate it? Cool. This is where we can say, hey, vendor risk assessment software. They can click on the page. They can see, oh, biggest capable, whatever you're leading within your hero. You can say vendor risk assessment software for InfoSec teams, trusted by, here are some companies that trust us that are similar to your peers, right? Here are the problems that you have with vendor risk assessments. Here's how we solve that and automate it for you. Here's other people like you. Here's what to expect in the sales process if you want to talk to us and find out more information. Okay, great. They're like, okay, cool. I know that this company A is an option for me. They leave, right? Now they're on LinkedIn or something like that. And you know they've visited your page. So now we're going to retarget them with something like, um, what are some other vendor risk assessment options out there? And you're like, you know what? Yeah, I was researching that. Are there other options? Cool. So I call this the comparison page, and it's not a one-to-one comparison. It's a comparison of all the alternatives in the market. So it could be you're not really fighting one-to-one with a competitor for that market share. What you're fighting for is for them to change their behavior, right? So they go to this page and it says, what are my options to do vendor risk assessment questionnaires faster? You could try to do it manually and hire more people. That's probably going to be really expensive. There's going to be a lot of error. You're going to be constantly updating stuff. You could get another solution, but you just have to make sure that those solutions can actually do it for you in an automated way, right? You can try to use other tools to make it faster. Maybe it's Zapier and you're trying to like automate and do and move things around and keep everything documented. So you can talk about you in comparison to other solutions, even ones that aren't other software, right? So that's kind of like, what are my options in the market? So you're giving them a view of, here are all the alternatives in the market that I could be up against. And they're like, okay, cool. Now they leave, right? And then they're thinking, what are some of this company A reviews? Company A reviews. I just want to see what people are saying about it. Now you have a landing page that kind of elevates that social proof. So you come on the page and it says over 20 million companies trust company A to complete vendor risk assessment. You go in, you have more light proof, you reiterate some of the solutions and how you do it. Same thing, same thing, same thing, right? Answer some of those questions. So you're reusing a lot of those ingredients. You're just packaging it up differently. Then finally, they're like, you know what? What is their pricing? Company A pricing landing page. Here's how we structure our pricing and agreements. If you're most companies are shy about pricing in B2B, but I would encourage you to at least put a starting range. That will disqualify all the low fruit that you're not even going to take anyway. Why do you want them in your funnel and convoluting your data? If they're like, okay, we start at 5,000 and a person's like, oh, I can't, that's too much for me. They're not never going to convert. And that's fine. You don't want them to, right? So then you have all your pricing information. Great. So you can say pricing plans that fit, blah, 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 every need, whatever. Funny. Okay, I'm ready to talk to someone. Company A demo. Now they go to a demo page, and this is the only acceptable page where you can have a form up top because that's what the user wants. They want to sign up. Maybe you have a calendar directly or you fill out some qualifying questions. They're more inclined to do that because they're ready and you have a conversation. So I have this bucket of landing page kind of frameworks that help through all of those journey pieces where they would potentially be looking for, well, what's the pricing? What are the reviews? What are my peers saying about it? What about this use case? What about this vertical? Something, your company A for healthcare? You have a vertical page. Yeah. So again, you're going to Tetris a lot of that information, be able to reuse a lot of that information, just like Chipotle.
It's like instead of focusing on the stages, you're going into the psyche of the buyer and you're trying to understand what steps they're going to take next.
Yeah. And here's the thing, a buyer can go through all 5. That's why it's not really a stage. A buyer can go through all 5 steps in a single day. The reason we're calling it a stage is because we hide things from the buyer. And so the buyer has to go through the stage of, I got to go hunt on Reddit or whatever for pricing of this company. But imagine if you gave them all that information up front, they would just go through all the stages in an hour. They'd be like, oh, can I get everything? They don't need to make those searches kind of later because you're being upfront with all the information that they're doing. And you know what you could do is within the same landing page, I do this commonly with my clients. In the footer, I make a minimal footer. And what I do is I link to all the other landing pages. So not to other pages on their site, to the other landing pages. So we have a little microsite of landing pages. So if they come to that first product touch point and they're like, okay, this is a problem. And then they see down here, company A reviews, company A pricing, company A demo, what other alternatives do I have to solving this problem? And you can actually see where they go through everything and they read 3 to 4 of those landing pages in one session. That's great. That's great feedback. And we don't have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for them.
So for people who are just starting to get into landing pages, to create landing pages, do you suggest they should start with custom like templates or start everything from scratch?
I'm not a big fan of the templates that a lot of like companies have out there because it's the standard of like, here's a form, here's some, BS few lines of copy and like, let's go for it. I haven't seen a good template so far. I think the fastest way, if we have to do an MVP, you can like clone something like your homepage or product page. And then for a marketer, that's kind of a dream because you can now edit the copy and make it whatever. You're not fighting the stakeholders because you're doing it in the name of testing. So that's an easy way to start that. And then look at all of these elements that I've talked about and see which one is missing. So the common one that I see missing is like an FAQ section. So if you clone your existing product page and you're looking at it, you're like, okay, the first thing is how can I make all of this extremely clear? So remove all your buzzwords, rewrite some of those. Oh, can I have an FAQ section in here where I can put like some of the common objections we get on the sales calls? Let me put that in there. And then let me add what they can expect in the sales process. You already have a pretty good like MVP that you can start testing. But that's where I'm like, it's not a huge amount of effort, but like if you had to start, then just you can start from cloning something, but you got to make sure that you are just being extremely clear and putting the buyer first.
All right. So, uh, what are some tools that you use to
Yeah.
create?
You don't need, okay, you don't need a whole like gamut of tools. There's a lot of A/B testing tools and stuff like that out there. Totally, you can use those and run multi tests and stuff at a time. But if you're a company that doesn't have that and you require lots of approvals before you even get to that point, that's fine. You don't even need to go get all these new tools. If you have basic web analytics, Google Analytics 4 or whatever you're using for your web analytics, you have some kind of heat map software is like super important. So Hotjar, Crazy Egg, Microsoft Clarity, any of those. I think a lot of them offer like 2,000 sessions for free. So you don't even need to get the paid version, just the heat map version. And then any access to like your own data, which is like anything that's in your marketing automation platform or your form submissions and, the actual like deal stuff. That's really all you need. I always tell people you don't have to build your landing pages on an external tool like Unbounce or anything like that. Build it within your own website, because what's going to happen is, say you have say that previous example where we saw the fourth FAQ is really important to them. That's really an insight that they can then put on their main website, because obviously they've discovered that that was a point and path of objection. And it's a really important thing. So they can now make it its own block. Well, it's easy to then transfer that block over to the main website when it's already part of your website, right? You can just like say, share this block with this page or whatever. So use your main website. It'll make sure that your brand identity is also consistent across all, and makes it easy to transfer any testing and learning, to a different page on the main website that aren't part of your campaign landing pages. So you don't need a lot. Your usual CMS for landing pages. Make sure that you have the ability to turn your, navigation off or like control a lot of the elements on there. Second is any web analytics, so GA4 or something similar. And third is heat mapping software. And that's really all you need to get started.
That's a crisp list.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So, what are some trends that you think are emerging in the paid ads space and will emerge in the paid ads space in 2025?
There's going to be a lot of like AI stuff as usual that's going to try to, like, oh, we'll build a landing page for you in like 5 seconds. And we're going to, do all your ad campaign setup, and all of these things are going to happen. They're going to think naturally. And I think one of the biggest things is, there's a lot of debate right now about whether paid search or Google search is also going to go away, because people are just asking ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or whatever for questions. But I still think that people are going to double verify. So they will ask ChatGPT. They still will go through search and still type in some queries there just to verify the information that they have. And so for me, I'm going to say this, which is, yes, you can use AI to build a landing page or tell you all of these elements, or you can use a tool that's leveraging AI. But the problem is, if AI has been trained on how we have always done things, then you are going to continue to create crappy landing page output. There is one company that does leverage AI, and they have a tool that's built to scrape all the A/B tests and things that have worked before. But again, it's like I look at it from a consumption perspective. So how exhaustive is that how exhaustive is that list? Because again, if we're optimizing for conversions, that's fine. We can just trap users in there, force them to convert, but that doesn't mean that they're ready. That doesn't mean that they have all the information they need to make a purchase decision. So I think that's the only thing I would caution someone is, right now, if you're going to try to choose speed and like, oh, we're going to get this done really fast, you're going to compromise on quality still quite a bit.
All right. So, this question I was most excited about, paid ads or landing page myths that you want to bust.
Huh. Just that they don't need them. I think that's one. The other thing is sometimes I'll have a client say, oh, yeah, we've been creating relevant landing pages forever and we have 60 of them. I'm like, 60? Well, okay. First of all, you don't need 60 landing pages. You don't need a high volume. And I think that's one of the things is like marketers like, I just don't have time to create a landing page for every single campaign and every single ad group. Well, you don't need to. If you do it correctly, you can have a core set of 5 or 6 that's more than enough to cover you on all the stages across like what your buyer is trying to collect in order to make a consideration, right? Um, so you don't need a ton of landing pages. The second one is they think that uh, after a campaign's over, we just kill the landing page. So a common question I get is, hey, at what point do I think that this landing page is not working and then I just cancel it or, like whatever, delete it or whatever. And I'm like, oh, you never turn it off. These are evergreen landing pages because these are literally going to be questions your buyer's always going to ask. You will make little tweaks over time, but they live forever. Your buyer's always going to ask for reviews about you. Your buyer's always going to ask, what's your pricing? Your buyer's always going to look for this core problem that you exist as a company to solve. They're always going to wonder, what are the alternatives in the market? What are my options? Right? So it's extremely important. And those questions aren't going to go away. Those are very standard in buying process. So you never have to turn them off. So I always say it's always great to invest a little time, do it right now, and it pays you dividends forever.
Okay, that's amazing. Final question. What's the one advice that you want to give to marketers who want to improve their landing pages?
I think the biggest thing is being clear, escaping from this like buzzword pit that we're all in. Um, you don't need to spend a lot of money. I have clients who've been very successful, even spending like 3,000 a month on landing pages, anywhere to like 500,000 a month if they have the budget. But I think there's that misconception that they need to spend more money in order to make more money. And sometimes it's just you need to find the right density of your ICP and you need to say the right things to them and put them first. Um, and so sometimes I'm like, this is terrible advice to give someone, but some of the best marketing I did were the ones where I didn't ask for a lot of internal feedback, and I probably should have, but I I'm always looking at the marketers win, and marketers are not winning as much these days. And so I'm always looking at it going, how can I let the marketers win? And what I think I love the most about landing pages is that it works as this little like playground and sandbox environment where marketers can play with messaging, get some data and feedback, and then go to their reporting calls and say, hey, we ran this test and we actually saw that it was working. And that's going to be hard for your leadership to go, well, who approved this? Because it's working. But that's what we need to do as marketers is just put stuff out there, test it, ship fast, and get that feedback. I think we just get so stuck in this loop of like stakeholder approval hell. You know what I mean?
That's a great thing that you want marketers to win.
Yes.
Love that line.
Even the way I structure my testimonials, I have like my testimonial quote, and I always say, here's the company win and here's the marketer win. And that's how I ask my marketers, my clients, hey, when you're giving me a testimonial, talk about, yes, the performance of the landing pages, but I want to know personally how this helped you. And a lot of them are like, I feel more confident in my job. I feel like I have the principles down now to go and create better landing pages and better ads. Like those things are way more valuable to me, than how we did a certain quarter.
Absolutely amazing. So,
Yeah.
all right, that brings us to the end of the show. I really want to thank you for coming. And I know you're on LinkedIn. For listeners, how can they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best way. I share new content weekly on there. I also have a free landing page resource hub. And then next week, I will be launching a swipe file of all the landing pages that I could have found, good and bad examples, but at least one place where you can kind of get some inspiration and ideas from certain things, and I will give them a little rating. So, like, is it good or fair or needs improvement? But at least you can look by company and by industry and things like that. So go to my profile. Those resources are completely free. And then, yeah, just watch that space for more landing page content. So,
Can't wait for your swipe file thing.
yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Of
And
course.
it was amazing talking to you.
Yeah, it was amazing
Thank
talking
you.
to you too.
Thank you.
If you found this episode helpful, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and drop a rating on Spotify. It really helps more marketers discover these expert insights. For episode updates and even more marketing wisdom, follow the Who Invited Marketing LinkedIn page. And hey, if you have any guest suggestions or topics you'd like to hear more about, let me know in the comments or connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks for tuning into Who Invited Marketing. I'll see you in the next episode.